Okay, cool. Let's get back to the tutorial material. Okay, so this week we are going to learn about constraint and assertion triggers. All right. So for the first part, we are going to talk about exercise 1A, B, and C. We have only one exercise in this tutorial, but A, B, and C are all about constraints. Okay, so we have talked about constraints before. So we've used this unique constraint in previous tutorials, and also we have foreign keys and primary keys. These are all constraints features offered in SQL. Okay, so earlier we create some constraint. When we create a table, we declare which are the foreign keys, which one are the primary keys. But we can also add alter table and add constraint later. Okay, so this is the syntax, and I just want to remind you where to find your constraints. So if you go to pgadmin and you connect to a database as usual, and you go to schemas public, and you can see all the tables you created later. So inside, for example, we created some tables in last tutorial, like student, academic staff, transcript, etc. And in one table, you can see the actually what columns and what constraints it has. For example, in a student here has three constraints, right? There's a primary key, this PK, FK, and FK. Okay. So this is how you check what constraints are on currently active for the table. Okay. So let's have maybe 7 or 8 minutes to try exercise A and B and C first. So what you'll need to do is you have a look at the syntax, how to alter table and add or drop constraint, and then you can try these queries on the tables we created in last tutorial. Okay, and also there are check constraints in here, foreign key and unique. Okay, so let's try part A, B, and C first in 7 minutes. And there's a question inside, so you can have a read and think about, and later we can discuss it together. All right. Okay, so let's have 7 minutes for A, B, and C, and we'll come back, discuss, and go on to D at around 5:13. And let me know if you have any questions. All right, so let's have a look together. Okay, so actually question A and C is fairly straightforward. You just try these comments and maybe try to trigger the narrow message later by inserting a line of data in the, for example, transcript table. But I want to emphasize that for foreign key constraint, there are something more you need to pay attention to. Okay, so for foreign key, you have several options. Okay, you have on delete cascade, or on delete no action, or you can on delete set null and set default. Okay, so these are actually different kinds of constraints, especially when you try to map ER diagram to a schema, then to the actual SQL query. These are very important. So I want to emphasize here, please think about this. When you design an ER diagram, we've learned about like constraints like exactly one, or we have different types like weak entities, normal entity, weak entities, right? So should we all use one kind of option for foreign key, or should we apply different options? Okay, questions in this tutorial would be more open-ended, but please have a think and try to remember on setting different options. Choose a proper one when you map your ER diagram to the actual code. All right, different behavior actually implies different kind of constraints if you understand ER diagram correctly. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna send this link into the chat in case you want to check later. Okay, so let's move on to assertion. So question D, we have several assertion cases. So assertion is generally something we want to maintain in the database. For example, in this case, we want the number of students enrolled in a unit of study equal to the current enrollment. In SQL case, we want this enrollment attribute in US offering table equals to the actual count in the transcript when the where term satisfies. Okay, so this is the how assertion works. So if the check term is violated, and then the assertion will throw back an error. Okay, so assertion doesn't really work for PostgreSQL, but you can run this underlying queries in here. All right, you can try to just copy and paste it into pgadmin and have a run and see what's returned, and have a think, will the assertion be violated? Okay, if you're unclear, you can go back to this page and see what's going on in here. Right? So basically, we want the condition to be true at all time. If it's false, assertion will basically throw out an error. Okay. Okay, so we have 3 queries in here. So let's have 6 minutes for question D. And please try to run this underlying code and have a think these assertions will be violated or not. Okay, based on the results you see from this underlying part. All right, let's have 6 minutes and come back at around 5:25. Okay. Okay, so let's have a look at this part together. Okay, so if you have tried to execute this part in pgadmin, you can find out that it actually returned lots of value. Okay, so for each entry in the US offering, if the number enrollment doesn't actually equal to the count, to the count number from the transcript table, then it will return 1 in here. Okay. So will the assertion be violated? Okay. So we actually want this table to not exist, right? So this is the condition in the check here. Okay. So but what we see is in pgmin there are lots of entries returned. Okay. So the condition is actually violated. Okay. So the assertion will throw out an error in this case. Okay. And if you tried query 2, it's the same. Only query 3 is sort of doesn't return anything. Okay, so it means the condition in here is actually consistent. Okay, so in this database. Okay, so that's how you work with assertions. All right. Okay, so let's move on to triggers part. So the syntax for triggers can look like a little bit complicated. Okay, so normally it has 2 parts. Okay, so for the first part, we need to create a function. Okay, and then for the second part, we actually create the trigger and use the function we created earlier within the trigger. Okay, so let me introduce a little bit about the syntax of function first. So in PostgreSQL, you can create function using this kind of syntax or template. Okay, so you give a function name here and some value it takes in, and you can specify the type, the data type it returns, and then inside this function, this is the actual procedure or the code or the thing you want to do to the input. Okay, so for this case, the input, let's say if the input has integer 20, then it will return 20 plus 1 back. Okay, this is basically, if you are familiar with any other programming language, it works. Most of them have function. If you're not using assembly language or something like that, then most of them have a function inside, and it works the same way. And we basically just declare the language to be PostgreSQL. Okay, this is the general template. So back to our case here. Okay, so we want to create a update in row function, and actually each time it will do this when a new entry come in. Okay, so what it does is each time when there's a new entry, you can think this new as a small database with one entry. One new entry inserted, for example. Okay, so for this new entry inserted, when this we are going to find out is US code attribute, and we are going to find out is semester attribute and year attribute, and then we are going to come back to the US offering table. Okay, so let's have a look what's inside US offering table. Copy. Okay, so this is how US offering table looks like. So when a new entry comes in, for example, a user inserted or you inserted one entry, this function here will find out the attributes of the new entry and accordingly find out one entry inside this US offering table. For example, if you entered a new entry with a US code info 2120 semester 1 and year, it will find out this entry in here, okay? And then this is the what the where term do, and then it will set the enrollment attribute of US offering. It will increment it by 1. Sorry. So each time it will find this entry and increase this number by 1 when a new value inserted. Okay. So that's what these functions do. It finds out the corresponding entry inside this table, and increase the number by 1 when there's a new entry inserted on transcript table. Okay. So this is what this function do and how to use it on trigger. So we create this function first. The function is basically setting to increase the enrollment by 1 when a new entry comes in. And then we create the trigger. We give a trigger name called update enroll. And then we state each time if there's an insertion on this transcript table. For each line inserted, we are gonna execute this function update enroll we created earlier. And then we'll find out the corresponding entry in the US offering table and increase the number by 1. Okay. So that's how this whole thing works. Okay. Now you can try to execute this query in here, and after you execute successfully, under the transcript table, we have a triggers tab. You can actually find that trigger inside, create it, okay? And then how do you test that trigger? You're gonna insert a new value on transcript table, and then you come back to your US offering table and have a look if the enrollment number is increased. Okay. So this is what we are doing for this part. And while you are doing this, or after you do this, please try to have a think. Okay, so you can have a look at this where term. Okay, it's actually very similar to what we have in the assertion 1. Okay. So each time we insert a new value in transcript, we insert the enrollment by 1. Okay, and this assertion in the previous section also says something with enrollment value and the count of the transcript. So you can think if this trigger actually guarantee the term in here to be true. Okay, have a think about it, and it's true or not, or why. Okay, the question in here in this tutorial is fairly open-ended. Okay, we want you to think about it without giving you a very exact solution. So please, after you execute this, try to think about this question and consider. We have listed out some other use case in here, which these use cases you can use trigger to deal with. Okay, so please also have a read and see what kind of trigger you should create to deal with these different conditions. All right. Okay, so all the explanation for the tutorial material will end here, and I will end recording. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can let me know through chat.